Hey baby, it is the Breemix season, episode 2.
Yes, and I'm very excited for the Breemix. I'm excited. Yeah.
Very nice.
I've learned so much more and have so much more insight.
Me too. Last week we answered the questions, what are demons and where do they come from? And if you missed that episode or any of our previous episodes, I invite you to check them out. If you like what you see there, I invite you to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes of Heavy Theology.
Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. Well, today we continue to go back in time to our season 1 episodes of the series, and we're revamping them in video format for our YouTube and Spotify video viewers. Today we're looking at Incubus and Succubus.
The demons of nocturnal emissions.
Or something like that. All right, well, why are we doing this? Well, because these episodes lay the foundation for everything we discuss on the podcast. And why are they the Breemix episodes? Well, because these episodes combine our research and knowledge from the past episodes with brand new research, bring you the very best research and material on the subject matter.
Woo!
Woo! All right, sound like a plan?
Sounds good to me.
All right, but first, we have a brand new live event to tell you about coming up at the end of August. On August the 28th from 6 to 9 p.m. here at Crow Coffee Lounge in Yuma, Colorado. We're going to do another live Q&A event with Pastor Jamie and Bree. But this one will be a recorded podcast. So if you'd like to be featured on our podcast or have your question featured on our podcast, please reach out to us at heavytheology@gmail.com or heavytheology.org. We'd love to have you be our guest for this very special recorded live Q&A event. Yeah, so doors will open at 5:30. Again, that is August 28th from 6 to 9 p.m. Doors open at 5:30 here at Crow Coffee Lounge in Yuma, Colorado. All right. You don't have a whole lot to say.
I'm just taking it all in, my love.
Okay, good deal.
Oh, I've got stuff to say.
He's got stuff to say. When we get down into it, you've got stuff to say. You ready for some research about Incubus and Succubus?
I'm on the edge of my chair.
All right. Well, these two nocturnal demons get their names from the Latin incubo, which means to lie upon, and succubo, which means to lie beneath. Now, incubus is traditionally depicted as male, and succubus is traditionally depicted as female. But as we know from previous episodes, demons have no gender. They're neither male nor female. But these are known to seduce men and women, and they're believed to target both saint and sinner alike, aggressively targeting both monks, nuns, and deeply aggressive people to break their vows of chastity, winning a massive victory for the underworld, and lay people.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. And when lay people are attacked, well, this is framed as punishment for the sins of lust and pride. Anyone found to have indulged too much in wanton thoughts during the day would most certainly be visited by an incubus or succubus because those unbridled thoughts had legally invited them in. Yeah. So in medieval times, they weren't just viewed as seducers. They were very distinctive types of demons that preyed upon sleeping victims. And when are we most vulnerable?
When we're asleep.
When we're asleep.
And this is a point to be made that the incubus and succubus phenomena about visiting you in your sleep and so forth actually comes on in the medieval times. But the terms were actually used in first century Christianity and ancient Judaism. And so they have a root in the idea of who the incubi and succubi are, but the actual modern idea of them visiting your sleep for, sexual paralysis doesn't come until the medieval times.
Wow.
And the idea that angels are beings that have no gender and therefore they cannot procreate comes on with Thomas Aquinas in that time as well.
Yeah.
And I'll talk more about that in a little bit.
Nice, nice. All right, well, incubi and succubi were said to drain the life force, the spiritual purity, and the physical vitality out of their victims. And they're also said to be responsible for SIDS, or at least they were during the medieval time, as you mentioned. But here's the thing medieval people couldn't wrap their minds around. How can a spiritual being, and demons are spiritual beings, physically interact with the human body?
I have an answer to that.
You do, as do I.
Yes.
Let's see if our answers line up.
I will wait to the Heavy Theology section.
Okay. Well, to find my answer, we have to go back to St. Augustine and to Thomas Aquinas. All right. So going back to St. Augustine, in the City of God, Augustine acknowledged that many people claim to have been assaulted by these demons. And because he didn't really outright deny the claims that people could be assaulted by demons, it set the groundwork for future theologians to take these claims seriously. So in the 13th century, when Thomas Aquinas came along, he began to argue that demons, they can't create life or truly possess flesh. Instead, he developed a theory for how demons can interact with humans. So I wonder if our thoughts are lining up.
I disagree with old Tommy Boy.
Okay, all right, well, good deal, good deal.
But Thomas Aquinas was the beginning of a movement called scholasticism, and they sought to meld Greek philosophy with Christianity. And therefore, based on Aristotelian and Platonic philosophy, they could not understand how demons could procreate.
I gotcha. So from my research, and you tell me if I'm correct, he theorized that incubus and succubus were one demon. Do you agree with that?
I do. I think there are multiple demons, as a matter of fact. I think incubus and succubus is the name by which they manifest themselves. Because the phenomenon is so widespread, it can't just be one demon. They're not omnipresent. So I think it's a multiple class of demons that manifest themselves in this particular way.
I gotcha. So he theorized that incubus and succubus were one demon that could take the shape of male or female. And this one demon would take the form of succubus to collect human semen and then transform into incubus to transfer into women or a woman.
And where he went wrong is he theorized that if that did take place, and that was the belief of the medieval times, and it actually came from a couple philosophers and theologians before him, that the child that would be produced then would be human. It would be the human child of the father from which the semen was collected. And that demons are like angels, are have no gender, and therefore they cannot procreate. However, this doesn't answer the question of, well, then how did angels come down and take on the daughters of wives of men and create the Nephilim?
Sure.
And I can go into that more in my Heavy Theology.
I gotcha. All right, well, Thomas Aquinas aside and his theories aside, young women in the medieval times, they would actually blame a visit from incubus to explain an unexpected or an illegitimate pregnancy to avoid ruining their reputations.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So now in the 15th century, the Malleus Maleficarum, which was basically a witch hunting manual, it was written by Heinrich Kramer in 1485. It alleged that people who had relations with incubus or succubus were guilty of witchcraft because they were no longer victims. They had instead chosen to consciously create an explicit pact with the devil. And this wouldn't appear to be too far from the truth if history had much to prove to us on the matter of incubus and succubus, because many of these visitations did appear to have some pretty nasty outcomes.
Yeah, that's the plot of Rosemary's Baby, by the way.
Ah, there you go. Hey. Well, we're not quite to 1970s yet. We're still back in the 1480s.
Truly.
Well, in 1480, a Scottish merchant ship was hit by a massive summer storm, and a woman below deck began crying and begging the crew to throw her overboard. And she then confessed that she had been secretly haunted daily by a special visit from a male spirit. Now, the ship's priest went down to hear her confession, and according to reports, the storm stopped when the priest was able to exorcise the woman of the spiritual attachment. So good for him for not throwing her overboard. Well, then in the same year, a nobleman's daughter from what is now Aberdeenshire, Scotland, was found to have been living with, now quote, a foul, monstrous thing in her chambers, right? Now, despite this thing, and it was repeatedly referred to as a thing, despite the thing's wretched appearance, the young lady had refused numerous marriage proposals from wealthy men because she loved the foul, monstrous thing. And a priest was brought in to banish it from her chambers and from her life. And then there was Magdalena de la Cruz. She was a 16th century Franciscan nun from Spain who was famous for her miraculous holiness. Well, she fell ill in 1543, and because she feared damnation, she confessed to the Pope that her entire spiritual career for the past 30 years, her entire private life had been aided by a 30-year active relationship with an incubus.
My goodness.
Yeah. Now, for anyone victimized by incubi or succubi encounters, the Malleus Maleficarum outlined 5 methods to fight back. And these included confession, the sign of the cross, exorcism, hanging herbs like St. John's wort, deal, or devil's bane, or what we now call vervain, around their beds to keep spirits away, and the iron knife. And they place an iron knife under their pillow or drive a nail into their bedpost to ground or repel the demonic spirit away, because it was believed that spirits were allergic to cold iron. But here's the thing. Incubi and succubi are said to be master deceivers, and they won't always appear as nameless strangers or those foul, monstrous things, as we've heard about before. Legal and ecclesiastical records note that they've frequently been known to take the exact form of a person's living spouse, a neighbor, or a very specific person the victim secretly desired. Now, this would serve 2 purposes. Obviously, it would cause the victim to let down their guard and consent to the encounter, and it would allow the demon to sow discord, jealousy, and false accusations of adultery or witchcraft or whatever within a town or a village. But what about today? Do these demons still roam and terrorize victims today?
Yes.
Yes, it appears that they do, if you believe that they are in fact demons, because modern science has another explanation for these nighttime, often frightening and sometimes violent, naughty encounters.
Silly science.
Silly science. But before I give you the scientific explanation, let me first explain the events that often occur during an incubus encounter, or what scientists have termed the incubus phenomenon. So this might be a little uncomfortable for some of our viewers or listeners, so viewer and listener discretion is advised. So these symptoms are all highly consistent and textbook in nature, meaning that people who experience the phenomenon or the event tend to report the same symptoms, and they usually happen like this. The first is waking paralysis or somatic atonia. And this is when the individual is completely conscious and they're aware of their surroundings, but their voluntary muscles are completely paralyzed. And they can't move their limbs, they can't open their mouths, and they can't scream for help. Then they're experiencing hyper intense thoracic pressure. Now, this is the powerful suffocating sensation that feels like a heavy weight is being pressed down on the chest or on the stomach. Also, they experience compound hallucinations, and this is where sufferers report feeling the actual physical sensation of being touched or grabbed or sexually assaulted by either an unseen or faintly visible mass. They also experience extreme dread, and this is an overwhelming instinctual fight or flight panic. And the individual is certain that a hostile, malevolent intruder is either in the room with them or is crawling onto the bed with them. And then lastly, there are vegetative symptoms, things like tachycardia or a racing heart, sudden cold sweat, spikes in blood pressure, and a profound sense of horror that prevents the victim from going back to sleep. So this is a typical incubus encounter, and science claims it's completely natural and it's explainable. And if it's science, it must be true.
It must be true. Because science never changes its opinion.
Of course not. Of course not. So how does science explain this phenomenon as natural? Now, would you like to go with me down the scientific road to learn how all of these things are explained? Well, according to medical science, our brains are caught in a glitch known as REM, sleep intrusion, during the incubus phenomenon. Normally, our brains keep dreaming and waking consciousness completely separate from one another. But during an attack or a glitch, known as the incubus phenomenon, these two phases crash into each other. So we're going to go through each of those terrifying ordeals that I just explained, but this time I'm going to give you the scientific explanation for why they happen. So when victims believe they're being pinned down, Science explains this as a biological safety feature in which the brain stem has secreted neurotransmitters to temporarily paralyze your voluntary muscles. Now, this serves to keep you from physically acting out your dreams and hurting yourself. And during the glitch, you wake up before those chemicals have worn off, so your conscious mind is 100% awake, but your body is locked in a dream state. So that one is feasible.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that to be 100% true. I believe that to be feasible. So when victims believe the incubus is sitting on their chest and holding them down, well, science explains that this is a mix of autonomic breathing patterns and hypervigilant panic. When you're dreaming, your breathing becomes shallow. And when you wake up paralyzed, your conscious mind tries to take deep breaths. But the problem is that your voluntary muscles are truly paralyzed. You cannot breathe deeply. Your autonomic breathing, controlled by your brainstem, is keeping you breathing peacefully and automatically. But your brain panics because you can't draw in a deep enough breath, and it interprets this mechanical restriction as a massive physical weight pressing down on your chest. Plausible?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a bookkeeper, not a doctor, so I'll buy this one.
Sure.
Yeah. All right, well, what about the invisible intruder? Well, the victim believes a demon has walked into the room, but science explains this one as a hyperactive amygdala combined with a glitch in the temporoparietal junction, or the TPJ. Now, the TPJ is the part of the brain responsible for maintaining your body's schema, or the internal map of where your body ends and the rest of the room begins. Now, because you're paralyzed and you believe you're suffocating, your amygdala screams that you must be in danger. Now, this throws you into a massive fight or flight response. You can't move to investigate the threat, so your TPJ freaks out and projects your internal map outward into the room. So your neurological panic mirrors into the dark, creating a distinct hallucination of a separate, hostile entity in the room with you. Science is losing me a little bit on this one.
Well, I wonder how they measure such a thing, or if that's just a theory. 'Cause sometimes scientific theories come across as scientific facts.
But let's keep going.
Let's keep going.
Let's keep going. Well, what about the physical sensation of being touched, or even worse, being assaulted? Well, science explains this as hypnagogic or hypnopompic hallucinations. And these are driven by a part of the brain that processes touch, temperature, and sexual arousal. While you're dreaming normally, the brain is active in generating vivid imagery, but when you're in a glitch or experiencing an incubus phenomena, you wake up in a trapped state and your brain tries to synthesize a reason for the physical sensations you're touching. So it translates these feelings into realistic feelings of being touched. So if your blankets are a little tight around you or whatever. Yeah.
Sounds like a theory.
Yeah, science. You have an excuse for everything. But I bet that theology can explain this one a little bit better.
At the root of this, we're going to have to go back into some other episodes, is the idea of the Nephilim in Genesis 6, 1 through 4. So there's the original view, the ancient Hebrew view, and the view up until about 300 AD was that the Nephilim were the offspring of the angels, the watchers, who came down and took on the daughters of men as wives. So therein lies our first problem. How do angels procreate with human beings? Because the Nephilim then would have to be half angel, half human, therefore they would have to be fathered by the angels. Well, in the supernatural realm, the angel can manifest itself however it wants with all kinds of human parts. So their idea was that the Nephilim, the watchers would come down and create the Nephilim, therefore crossing the boundaries of the physical and the supernatural, therefore taking over not just the supernatural areas of the world, but the physical areas of the world, humankind, and corrupting them as well. But the first fall was when Lucifer stood before God and Adam was created. It's said Archangel Michael brought Adam before the angels, and they were to recognize him as the Imago Dei, the image of God, which made Lucifer, the seraph, and a third of the angels jealous and angry, and they refused to bow the knee to Adam as the image of God. Therefore, for their punishment, they were sent down to the earth to roam the earth. Of course, this is where Lucifer then tempts Adam and so on and so forth. So we have a third of these angels roaming the earth. Then we have the Watchers, which is a whole different group in Genesis 6. That Genesis 6 clearly tells us that the Nephilim actually aren't giants. The word there is translated as giganticus into the Greek Septuagint, but it's very, very close to the Hebrew word Eil, E-I-L, which means fallen ones. So Nephilim literally means fallen ones. It was mistranslated as giants because there's one letter difference in the two words. So the Bible attests to the fact that the Nephilim are half angels, half men, and angels can procreate. Do we explain how? No, the Bible doesn't explain how, right? But they do. This is where Aquinas goes wrong. Then in about the 4th century, Augustine starts to champion this Sethite view, that the Watchers weren't actually angels from heaven. They were actually descendants of Adam and Eve's son, Seth, which it never mentions that it's Seth. It's never mentioned in the lineage of Seth, right? So it's scripturally unprovable. 2, that theory never exists until the late 3rd century. So the Watcher view actually predates the Sethite view all the way back to ancient Hebrew. So it's proven by Scripture and attested to by ancient Judaism, and specifically Second Temple Judaism, that angels can procreate with humans. This happens. And then, of course, the Nephilim are wiped out. But then we're still dealing with the angels that were originally thrown out with Lucifer. And I think these are probably the angels that are the Incubus and Succubus. And they saw what the Watchers had attempted to do, take over the earth, so they're trying to do the same thing. So they're trying to procreate with humans. And for some reason, God has forbidden it or prevented it from happening altogether. So that's where I think Aquinas went wrong. He adopted the Sethite view as per Augustine, as per the 3rd and 4th century idea of the invention of the Sethite view. But truly the Nephilim view as fallen ones, as offsprings of angel and men, goes all the way back to ancient Hebrew. So it's the oldest tradition, and therefore I cling to it. So I think the Incubus and the Succubus are trying to corrupt humans with sexual immorality, right? To play on their lust. Yes, they can take the form of man or woman, that is for sure. They can take whatever form they want. But I don't believe that God has allowed them to be able to procreate with humans anymore. I'm not for sure why that is. Maybe in their demonic fallen state, that ability was taken away from them.
Okay. All right. Good deal. Good deal. So if I'm understanding you correctly, this has been happening since the beginning. Why do you think we just started hearing about Incubus and Succubus during the Middle Ages?
I think it's a great question, and obviously there's biblical precedence. The Incubus is based upon the Watchers, right? And the Succubus is based upon Lilith, who was, in folklore, was said to be the first wife of Adam, who was disobedient, had affairs with many demons, became a demon herself. And she is the one responsible for SIDS. She gives poisoned breast milk to babies, right? And she corrupts men as a revenge against Adam and Eve and their children. And then, of course, there's the Lilith fair and the feminist pro-abortion social activist movements today that take on this name Lilith. And she's the one that's responsible for SIDS, as you had said. Okay. I don't think Lilith really existed.
Sure.
However, the demonic will play on any fear that humans have. So as humans create the myth of Lilith, a demon masquerades as Lilith, right, to perform these activities. Having said that, in the Middle Ages then, they start to come up with this myth of Incubus and Succubus, these things that visit you at night. So demons take on this persona because people believe in them. And if people believe in them, then therefore they are willing to assent to or afraid of or out of fear give consent to them to have access to them.
Sort of like the Philip experiment.
Philip experiment, yeah. So I don't think that the Incubus and Succubus are new. I think they were always there in the demonic. It's a new way that the demonic in the medieval times are presenting themselves, but it's the same old
I gotcha.
sexual corruption and immorality
I
of
got
human
you.
beings?
I got
That's
you.
a really good question.
Thank you. Well, what do you think about the modern scientific explanations for the incubus phenomenon?
I think they're plausible, and I think they can happen. I'm not for sure how they measured them. I would be really interested in how they do that.
Sure.
How do you know that there's this that the REM sleep interferes with the other sleeps? How do you measure that scientifically? Because everything has to be measured in science. Just like we always talk about disease, not every disease is caused by the demonic.
Right.
However, the demonic
Right.
can cause disease.
Sure,
Therefore, not every sleep paralysis is caused by the demonic.
Sure.
With the demonic can cause sleep paralysis and have
Right.
incubus and succubus.
Right. So the
it's
two
a
can
mix of the two.
exist in tandem.
I
Then
do
there
believe so.
can be completely innocent and scientifically explainable phenomenon. Plus, there could also be the actual demonic.
Right.
Okay.
And it would be my guess, purely my speculation and my theory, and whenever I give you my speculation and theory, then I lay it out there, that the ones that are continuous, right,
Sure.
are the ones that are actually demonic.
Right.
The ones that are more violent and sexually explicit
Sure.
and cause sexual violation, I think probably are more the demonic.
Sure.
Because no one would in their mind conceive of welcoming a sexual assault
Sure.
in their subconscious
Sure.
to allow scientifically something like
Sure.
that to happen.
Are there things that people can do to accidentally or inadvertently invite these types of presence into their?
Yeah, I mean, don't talk to dead people.
Yeah, we say that all the time. We still mean it.
Don't
Even
talk
in
to
the
dead
Breemix
people,
episodes,
right?
we mean it. Don't talk to dead people.
Talking to dead people, getting into New Age philosophy. I mean, meditating and welcoming in higher spiritual beings that you encounter in your meditation. You can, it can masquerade as a dead relative, right, or a dead husband or wife, right, and welcome it in. You can do all kinds of things that let down your guard. Paul tells us in Ephesians chapter 6, put on the full armor of God.
Sure.
We battle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and dominions
Yes.
in the cosmic realm. Okay, so if it's not against flesh and blood, principalities and dominions in the cosmic realm are what? They've got to be supernatural beings, right? And so go to church, right? Someone says, I don't have to go to church to be a Christian. Oh, congratulations. Christians go to church.
They do.
That's what they do.
They do.
And so,
They do.
and so they go and receive the sacrament and hear the word preached, and their faith is fed. And church actually is the Greek word ekklesia, which means sacred gathering. So we're meant to be in community. And this idea of radical individualism that we have today, you know, my salvation, my faith, and so on and so forth, really would not have been how the Old Testament and the New Testament era people would have thought of salvation. Salvation is not bestowed upon an individual so much as it's in covenant with a group. So it's not so much that you're saved, it's that you have now become part of the Christ-listening church.
Sure.
Therefore you are saved. Does
Right.
that make sense?
It does.
And so this radical idea of being apart from church is a very, very modern phenomena. Therefore go to church, be a part of the group, and receive the sacraments and hear the word. And this is how we put on the armor of God: daily prayer, daily scripture. We've talked about it in former episodes. I will not perform an deliverance or an exorcism on anyone until they first and foremost can prove to me that they can attend church regularly,
Right.
and receive the sacrament and pray regularly and be in the scriptures regularly. Because if they're not willing to do what it takes to keep the demons at bay after, why should I risk my life and my mental sanity
Yeah.
and go into the process of delivering them?
They got to do their part, don't
They
they?
got to do their part.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the protection is putting on the armor of God: prayer, scripture reading, church attendance, being active in the church, loving and serving your neighbor.
Which is probably the anecdote. If someone is finding themselves tormented at night, that's probably the same thing that they need to do, right?
Yeah.
Go to church.
Go to church.
Okay.
It's not Hollywoodized. It's not, it's not seen as a William Wallace, let's go to battle, man.
Sure.
Our battle is on our knees in prayer,
Sure.
in penance,
Yeah.
in confession, absolution,
Yeah.
in hearing the word.
Good deal. Good deal. Well, are you ready for a reality check?
I am stoked for a reality check.
You know, I've never had this experience, thank God, thank you, Jesus. I've never had this experience. I pray I never do. I have had sleep paralysis a time or two in my life, and it is terrifying.
It's terrifying, I know.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have had the hypnagogic hallucinations a time or two. They've been recurring, and those are beyond horrific. But I've never had the combination of the two, and I can't imagine if I'd had the combination of the two. I hope to never experience it. I've never had anything like what has been described here. I certainly believe in demonic activity. I've witnessed it countless times in my life, but I tell people all the time, not everything is demonic. But you know what? Some things are.
Some things are. Yep.
You know, just like you alluded to. And this one very well could be. So I can say that I'm on the fence, you know, about this one a little bit because I've never experienced this particular event before, but I'm enough of a believer to not invite it in.
Yeah, right.
Definitely not interested in that. So, yeah, good deal. Good episode.
Absolutely.
All right, well, next week we continue with our Breemix episodes, and we are doing my very favorite.
Are you sure you want to do Annabelle? Are you sure?
It is my favorite episode of all
it
the
is your favorite
episodes that we
episode,
have done.
Yeah.
It's the Annabelle episode. That one was the one where my research really took off, and it was just, man, it was just such a good episode. I truly enjoyed it. So I hope to bring you guys some
I'm looking forward to
really good stuff next week. It'll be a good one. It'll be a good one. I think that's the one where we really started with don't talk to dead people.
Don't talk to dead people.
Yeah. So we'll do that one again next week. Well, thank you to Triet and Jackie at Crow Coffee for allowing us to use their beautiful venue. And thank you to Shane over at Hive and Pulpit for his excellent editing abilities. And we'll do it again next week.
We will do so.
Bye, guys.
guys.